So Birmingham to Crewe, we've finally had the full preview stream and I've got a lot to say here. So the root releases October 21st and honestly I'm still a little worried about that date, not because the root itself looks bad or anything, and honestly it's far from it and I'm gonna get more into that throughout this video, but because of where the game is just overall right now. Core features are still buggy, faults behave inconsistently, AWS magnets don't respond to TSRs still even after multiple patches. It's really hard not to be cautious when all of those systems and features either aren't working or aren't fully stable. But you know, after watching the stream, I'll admit I definitely feel a bit more relieved. During the broadcast, it was clarified that most of the class 350 improvements will actually be in on day one and not delayed until later, as that earlier article made it sound. Only a handful of the very latest fixes missed the cutoff because they were finished just days before certification. And that's understandable, and it definitely eases some concern heading into launch. I definitely think Dovetail could have done a better job with clarifying that in the article instead of just putting a note beneath all of the fixes and improvements. Some changes may or may not be in a post-release update. Since it was only a couple, they should have just clarified what they were and mentioned that they were recently finished and submitted so they didn't make the cutoff. Even just that amount of transparency would have helped a ton. Even with every assurance though, there are still the usual quirks, some lighting bugs, strange announcement behavior, and engine faults that pop up here and there. It's just part of the ongoing balancing act that the team still needs to get right. But it is worth remembering this DLC is not developed by Dovetail themselves, it's by All Aboard Studios, and honestly what they've done in just 9 months is incredible to say the least. They only started this project back in January from what I've read, and the fact that they've built something this polished and expansive in that time frame really says a lot. It is very, very clear they know what they're doing and that there is real passion behind it. So I want to get that on the table first and foremost. Now, talking about what we actually saw on stream. So let's first start with the visual representation. That's where most of my first impressions come in. So the root looks phenomenal. Wow, that's really what I have to say here. Birmingham New Street alone is a huge step up from the Birmingham New Street that we have on the Birmingham Cross City route. The lighting is much warmer, more balanced. The entire station feels alive. Lots of traffic coming and going. Some AI, some playable. The old glowing benches are gone. Hallelujah. Clutter has been heavily expanded, and they mentioned something like 300 new items added to fill out that space. You can really tell that something has been done here. The info screens have been updated. Those look really nice. And just generally the atmosphere here at this station feels right. There's also a new safety announcement on the LNR trains. Please familiarize yourself with the safety instructions throughout the train. Very small touch, but adds a lot in for immersion. You also hear the see it, say it sorted message sprinkled in now, which really just takes this home. Now, this compared to the much simpler GWR announcements on the Riviera line, these are definitely much richer in detail. Now, tunnels near Birmingham have also been completely relit. They finally have a proper contrast and depth, and the new raised ballast detail along the tracks looks pretty good too. You can really tell they've leaned into smaller details, lots and lots of track clutter. The foliage placement is very well done. I don't think I personally noticed any trees clipping through trains, so it seems like there has been a much better job of that here on this route, at least from the services that we saw compared to the Riviera line, which I was thinking about doing a video counting how many times the trees clipped through my class 150 throughout the route, and it was a lot. It was dozens of times. But generally the scenery looks great and it all just layers together perfectly. Everything feels much fuller and more natural. Suspension improvements on the 350 are very noticeable too. The cab movements feel much heavier and more rocky and shaky. You can actually feel the train sort of reacting to uneven rail joints and gradients. I was trying to pay attention to that most since since we first saw the list of Class 350 improvements, so that makes a massive difference here. One small distraction though, with the raised ballast, I noticed that the sleepers seem to be popping into full detail a little too close to the cab. You'll sometimes see them suddenly sharpen right in front of the train, and while that's probably just an LOD thing, it definitely breaks flow quite a bit. Now there are a few quirks with announcements. Like I mentioned earlier, I love the new little bits like the safety instructions throughout the train or safety notices. I forget what exactly is said. And also, you know, the see it say it sorted edition, but sometimes the inflection in the station names sounds a bit off, like a different voice or a different recording level. And there was one stop that even skipped the next station name entirely. I think it was when we were ending the Class 350 run before jumping straight into the safety message. Definitely not a deal breaker, but it's noticeable and hopefully easy to polish up later on. Arrival times were missing on the preview build too, which the team said will be fixed in the first patch, and the same goes for a bug affecting service length display time, so that'll be sorted post-launch. Disappointing to see that, but at least we know that fixes are going to be on the way there. But for performance, yeah, that's where it gets a little rough. Certain sections stuttered very badly, especially around Crewe. There was lag, hitching, and very noticeable instability. It isn't the end of the world, but I would be lying if I said it didn't concern me at least a little bit. Now I'm really hoping it's just a preview build optimization and that the final release runs better, especially for console players who might struggle more with all of this detail, but I'm not very confident in that. Matt did mention that he wasn't able to compile shaders for the entire route. I believe he mentioned that he was able to do so for the northern end of the route, but even when we got there towards Crewe, the performance still wasn't the best, so that's worrying. Now, scenery-wise, the area around Wolverhampton absolutely blew me away. Underneath the viaduct, you've got all of these layered textures. There's rocks, gravel, little tiny ponds. There are brushes and shrubs that fill the space so nicely, and even with a little bit of water texture flickering that I was noticing there, it is definitely one of the best looking areas in the entire route. Honestly, it's beyond what we've come to expect from Dovetail's own internal work, so I'm impressed personally, even beyond a few of those quirks and also a few passengers that looked like they were floating or walking on water in that area. Now, if this had been the flagship route for TSW6, I think the launch reception would have been even stronger than it was with the 3 core routes, including the Riviera line. The visual quality really is just that good. Wolverhampton in particular is incredible. Oh my gosh. Now, one thing that's come up a lot, and I've noticed it too, is that every single run in this stream was driven in thick fog, and that's quite unusual. Normally Dovetail streams show routes under clear skies, or at least very minimal fog. I mean, that little tick is maybe up 1 or 2 presses, but seeing this entire preview done like this definitely breaks that pattern. And I'm not trying to stir up conspiracies here, but I just want to say that that's a little odd, don't you think? The fog really limits visibility for distant scenery, and with how stunning this route clearly is, I just don't understand why they choose to hide that behind a haze. Maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not, but I would love for them to clarify this because a lot of people have been talking about it over on the forums. I received a DM about it. The discussion threads have mentions of this, and it's even brought up in the Q&A thread too on why the choice to do that was made, considering it feels like they actively try to aim for the opposite when showing off new routes. No clouds and no fog. But for that stretch north of Wolverhampton, my God, is it my speed. It is exactly what I want. In the Class 350, you're pushing 100 miles per hour for pretty much the whole journey up to Crewe. The Class 350s handle that speed perfectly. I love how different the pacing is depending on what section of the route you're on. For the northern half, it's much faster paced gameplay, whereas on the southern end, it's just more slower stopping work. There is really so much to do, and the variation in service types keeps things very, very fresh. This is going to be a staple route for me, and you know, it is rivaling West Coast Mainline South. I'm gonna say it. I need some time with it though, because I don't know how the novelty is gonna wear off. I feel like the novelty is wearing off very fast on the Riviera line because it's slower paced, but we'll have to see. So we've got express runs, semi-fast runs, local stoppers, ECS moves, and even rail tours a part of the mix. That range of operations is exactly what I like to see on a UK route. The timetable itself feels very, very tight and purposeful, and on the southern end, you're doing shorter hops between stations, while the northern side opens up into high-speed territory. So again, it's a very satisfying rhythm, and depending on what you're playing, if you're not doing full-length runs here, you have the option to choose what kind of run you want based on what section of the route you want to play. It reminds me a lot of Boston to Providence on the Northeast Corridor. Those long, fast stretches balanced by the movements of slower pacing at times, and for me, this might land in my top 3 routes easily. What's funny is I went in thinking the northern section would be a bit bland, lots of open countryside and not much going on just based off of things that I was reading, but I've actually really enjoyed it. The fields are gorgeous. I will say the fog did help in this scenario. The way the light was coming through the trees. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to do some sunrise and sunset runs on this route. Now, as far as scenarios, we have a great variety. We have 5 in total. They are early start, Wolverhampton local, back in action contingency measures, and unit exchange. 2 of those, back in action and contingency measures, run over an hour, while the shortest, Wolverhampton local, is about 35 minutes, and the rest sit between 40 and 45 minutes. So a solid range there. There's also been a lot of talk about the Class 350 improvements. I've already covered that list in detail in 2 videos now, so I won't repeat everything again here, but if you want that full breakdown, definitely check out my Birmingham to Crewe article coverage. But long story short, nearly all of the fixes will be in on day 1, with only 3, I think they mentioned, arriving a bit later in a patch. But now getting up to Crewe, it looks fantastic. I love the signage, the OHLE, very, very well modeled, and the station's actually highly explorable. You can walk all the way to the front entrance through the car park and bus area. I really, really appreciate that, you know, interactability, and that kind of ties back to things I've mentioned previously where I want to see them expand more with walkable areas in TSW. Let us go further beyond what is normal in terms of boundaries, and I think we kind of see that a little bit here at Crewe. Now, with that said, performance around Crewe was pretty rough in the preview, definitely one of the heaviest areas on the route, and it really did show. Still, the level of detail there is insane. There are tons of tracks. Oh my gosh, especially with the yard being right outside the station, but there's a lot going on, tons of static stock, lots of busy AI movements with 350s and 390s coming and going. But speaking of the 390, I want to sit and talk about that for a minute. Unfortunately, there are no announcements on it. It is a standalone loco DLC, which in my opinion often means it doesn't see as much ongoing support. And that is disappointing because it's such a big part of this route. The same goes for the Acela in the US. A great train, but it really never got any updates once it released. Matt mentioned on stream there are currently no plans to add announcements to the 390. Someone in chat joked, make plans then, and he laughed, but honestly I agree with that person. This would have been the perfect route to finally update it. The Class 390 is going to be an express staple here, clearly, and it's a shame it doesn't get that bit of extra love. It just really deserves it. But the good news here is that static layers are actually toggleable, which is honestly a really clever feature. So you can choose to disable certain traffic layers, and these are static layers, I believe. So if you want better performance, you can turn them off, which should help smooth things out for anyone struggling with FPS. And honestly, I actually like that not every Class 390 service is playable. Having some AI only runs means that you can stand at a station and watch them tear through at full speed. And for people like me who enjoy rail fanning and collectible hunting and all of that fun stuff, that is perfect. This was even brought up many times in this stream. So it was also confirmed that there are no plans for route extensions or a new West Coast mainline section from All Aboard Studios right now. The new 350 variants won't sub into the West Coast mainline south route at launch either, though they hinted there might be something else coming later and that we might hear more about it. I think they said in the November roadmap, which definitely caught my attention. There is no Class 90 plan for this timetable either, at least for now. They said if adding it adds genuine value without breaking performance, they might revisit it down the line, but as it stands, the timetable is tight and complete. They also confirmed that neutral sections aren't implemented on this route since most of the trains that run here don't simulate them anyway. Now, what's next for All Aboard Studios? They did say they're already working on other projects, though it's not the Class 730, just to put that rumor to rest. When asked about the possibility of a Class 805 or a 2025 timetable update for the Class 805, the answer was expect the unexpected, which is interesting. So maybe there's something fun cooking for later, I don't know. And another small but nice detail, there's a British Transport Police announcement now, and they did mention that it's going to be updated, I believe, with a newer, more up-to-date number. Now, circling back to something I mentioned earlier, I would really love to see TSRs become more meaningful in the future. Right now, we only seem to get one per run, and they're usually fairly short. It would be so much more interesting if we could get longer stretches or maybe even multiple TSR segments in a single service, like maybe 1 or 2 mile restrictions that actually force you to adapt and really risk running late. I think it would add more challenge and realism that is missing. I like TSRs, but they don't really impact anything. They really don't. That's just the truth of it. They don't really make you late. And you know, the whole point of having random events and delays was to really break up the timetable and cause things to deviate from where they should normally be. And I feel like with what we have, it's so minor that even if you're just a hair late, you end up making up that time before the end of your run anyway. That was just a little thought that was completely unrelated to the stream that I had while watching it when we were going through a TSR section. But overall, this is just an incredibly ambitious first release from a third-party team, must I say. Wow. We're talking roughly 50 miles of track, tons of service variety, stopping pattern variety, detailed yards, great OHLE work, lots of clutter and foliage, dynamic lighting, and the tunnels. Everything seems much better than it usually is. And I don't want to judge too hardly because it's a preview stream and I haven't gotten my hands on it, but things look really good. And it is bold to say this, but I genuinely think that All Aboard Studios may have topped Manchester Airport Commuter from Alan Thompson Simulation in terms of scenic design. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it, but I'm gonna be real, that route already set the bar very high, but this one might have raised it even further. You can really feel the passion in every part of it, and you can really tell that this was made by individuals who really love and are passionate about trains and UK operations. So yeah, there are still issues to iron out, the bugs, the optimization, a few missing details that could polish things up, but considering this was built in just 9 months, that is almost unbelievable. It's one of the strongest first showings we've seen from any new developer under the TSW umbrella, and I cannot wait to get my hands on this and see how it performs at release. But I'm curious on what you guys think. Are you planning on picking up Birmingham to Crewe next week, or are you waiting to see how it runs first? I would love to hear your thoughts. That's gonna be it from me for this video. Thanks for watching and happy rail simming.